I'm going to walk you through how I implemented template inheritance in this video, and I think it's really going to help you understand how to implement it. It's very consistent with the earlier video I just did using the PowerPoint slides. So if you haven't seen that, please do take a look at that. On the screen here, you'll see my base.html page. Now notice I've added this comment. This is an HTML comment because I do, as I've mentioned to you, I always do forget this. But now with template inheritance, by including it in the base, I can be sure that this will be included on every single web page from now on. Now you'll notice this is the standard structure for an HTML page, and consistent with the earlier presentation, I've added two titles. I've added a block title and a block main, and I've provided a default title for the page, and that is my company, but I have not provided anything here. So by the way, base.html can be largely in any templates folder in any of the added applications. I usually put it in the home added application because that's the most logical place for it. But as long as you have set up an added application with the templates folder, Django will be able to find it regardless, as long as it's in the templates folder. Now, for my home page, what I'm going to do, of course, this is the main company page. What I need to do is make a decision. I either have to override both title and main, or override just main. What I did here was I only overrided main, consistent with the earlier example. And this way, what I'm doing is I'm just providing the content for the main page. Notice I did not override the title, so it will use the default title, which I provided here. So let's take a look and see how this looks in practice. So when I loaded up my page, this is what it looks like. Now again, this has not changed, okay? This looks the same. But if I look at the page source, let me pull that up, you'll notice that even though I have accessed home.html, and you'll notice my comment here, consistent, I have doc type, and I have a full HTML document, even though I didn't provide it. It used the default title, as I mentioned, it pulled that from base.html, and it plugged in the content from the home.html, plugged that in, but I still have a complete web page, which is what we're looking for here. Now let's go back to code here, and we'll take a look at the the HR application. So let me close that up. Again, the base.html is still in play here. We're still using that because we're pulling from that. And let me pull up the templates here so you can see the HR home. Again, this HR home page extends base.html, so it's going to pull in the template, and then now it's going to plug in the block title as well as the block main. The content is different here, but you'll see now I'm using the block title as well as the block main. So let's go back here. Let's access the HR homepage. And again, nothing really changed here, and that's kind of the point. But what we have done is we've structured the page. Notice the HR homepage though, if I go back to here, you'll notice it used my company as the title. But if I go here, you'll notice I overrode that and used the HR homepage. Again, looking at the source, you'll see that I did override the HR homepage here, unlike with the main. And it plugged in the content but used the same structure that it pulled from base.html. So it's the same idea here. Now what if I wanted to create a new page? So let's suppose I want to create a new page. I'm going to want to inherit that page. So let's create a new page, and let's go out to the product added app, and I'm going to create a new template, and I want to actually pull in let's say the categories. So I'm going to say new file, and I'm going to call it categories.html. And the purpose of this page will be to list the categories, let's say in bullets. So the first thing I need to do, of course, is I need to extend the base. So I'm going to say extends base, and you have to put this inside quotes, base.html unquote. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to provide a title, so I'm going to override that block, and we're going to say block title, and we'll call this categories. And we've got to make sure we close these. Very important, because you will get errors if you don't close these. End block. All right. Now we're going to provide the code for the main content. What we want to do is iterate through the categories and list them. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is to create the block to indicate that it's block main. And now all we need to do is provide what is going to be in the main content. So let's create a loop. And remember, I haven't done a lot of this work yet. I have to build the the view, but we're going to say for category in categories. And that's something we're going to have to pass in. And we'll simply say paragraph, and we'll say category dot category name. And we need to put these inside braces. By the way, one cool trick is you can do this. You can highlight that and just do it like this, and then hit space. Oh, the space doesn't work, so I'll have to do that manually. Space there, space there. All right, and now we need to close the loop. And for, and we need to close the block. All right, I find indenting these, by the way, really helpful. You can highlight them and indent them like this. And it does help keep me on track in terms of what I have to close and not close, okay? So I had this largely set up, but the problem is I'm not passing anything to it at this point. I also don't have a URL pattern for that. So let's say File, Save All, and that at least takes care of the template. So let's now go over to URLs, and let's add a new path, and we'll call this categories. All right, and we'll say we're going to call it views.getCategories. Did I spell categories right? Looks like I did. And then we'll say name equals, in case we want to link to it, let's just call it get categories. We use the same thing, copy. All right, now we've created a name. That's good. Let's save all. Now let's actually link to it. Oh, apparently I have a, oh, that's because we have no attribute called get categories. We will fix that in just a second. Django's really good about picking up those views, and you'll notice that the error says product.views has no attribute get categories. We will fix that in just a second. Now I'm going to go back to the home page, and the home page I want to be able to access this as well. So I'm going to use the name here called get categories. Copy that. We'll create a named link to this. So go to the templates. This is going to be in the home page. So we're going to add to this, and I am going to say li. We're going to use the same format, href equals, and then we're going to use this URL structure and a named URL, and I copied it in there, so I'm going to call it get categories, space, and then parentheses like that. Isn't that cool? And then we'll close it out, and we'll just call it categories. Now again, using the named URLs, it will automatically generate the correct link to the page that we just created. The last thing we need to do is write the views. And if you go over here to the views section within product, this is going to be very, very similar to get product, except it's going to be called it'll really be similar to the get products category because we're going to be getting all the categories. So let's paste that, and we're going to do a lot of replacement here. So we'll say categories. All right, categories. And we're going to get a little error there, so we'll keep this simple. We'll refer to it in the template as categories. So copy, paste, and we called this template categories. So let's keep that consistent as well. That's the template we're going to link to. Now I think we have everything done. There's one thing, when I hit File, Save All, I think I'm going to get one more error here. And I do, and that is the undefined variable. Remember, we have to import everything, and we used product, but we have not imported category. So let's make sure we import that. Save all. All right. Now, we built a fairly sophisticated website here, and if I go back to the main page, you'll see now I have a link to categories. If I hold the cursor over it, notice it generates the correct link there. Even includes product, because remember, we're in the product app. It includes that. We didn't even have to remember to do that. It generated it for us. If I click that, notice it lists the categories automatically. And if you look at the page source, again, built an entire HTML page, and all we had, if you want to remember this, notice, by the way, it brought in this as well. This was from the base. Remember that comment that I put in the base? That inherited in as well. And if you go over now back to the actual page, just to refresh your memory, you'll notice we wrote relatively little code. If you look at categories, that's what we wrote, and it generated that entire HTML page. So I hope that helps. It's one of my favorite topics. It really does improve your productivity when you're writing web pages. Play around with it, get some practice. If you have any questions, please do let me know. I'll see you in class.